hold on tight because a seismic shift is underway within the hallowed halls of the Kremlin. This isn't about fleeting rumors of insubordination or the usual grumbling from military analysts. No, what we're witnessing are the undeniable tremors of a regime in freefall. A breakdown originating not from external pressures, but from the very economic bedrock that sustains Putin's iron grip. The pillars of his power are crumbling from within, signaling a desperate scramble for survival among Russia's elite. In the waning days of October 2025, Lukoil, Russia's second-largest oil company and a critical pillar of its private sector, delivered an earth-shattering announcement. The company declared its intent to divest all its foreign holdings. This was no mere business transaction. It signaled the terminal breakdown of the entrenched oligarchic system, a vast network Putin meticulously crafted to dispense wealth in exchange for absolute fealty. This isn't a gradual decline. It's the relentless drumbeat of a mass exodus from a crumbling regime. According to official dispatches, offers from eager buyers are already flooding in. This isn't just about a struggling company optimizing its portfolio. It's the blazing tip of a colossal iceberg. Financial markets reeled immediately following this bold maneuver. As reported by the Moscow Times, Lukoil's market capitalization plummeted a staggering 7.2% in mere days, wiping out approximately $4 billion in market value. The most severe blow landed on oligarch billionaire Vagit Alekperov, the company's founder and principal shareholder. His personal fortune reportedly contracted by over $1 billion during this same tumultuous period. This wasn't an isolated incident of an oligarch taking a hit. It was the clearest, most resounding tremor of the entire oligarchic edifice, which Putin had assiduously cultivated and safeguarded for 25 years, demanding unwavering loyalty in return. This intricate structure once commanded Russia's vital industries: oil, gas, metals, and automotive. Now, as Lukoil and Alekperov endure this financial nightmare, every other Russian oligarch is witnessing their own empires dissolve at an alarming rate. It's not just Lukoil. Oil magnates, metal titans, mining barons, they are all aboard the same vessel, and it's rapidly taking on water, with the very bedrock of Putin's 25-year system beginning to fracture and inescapable constraints, such as the mounting crisis in Kaliningrad, tightening their grip. Russian oligarchs are now facing an existential dread. The critical question is no longer about upholding fidelity to Putin, but rather times when times to abandon this rapidly capsizing vessel. This desperate predicament has ignited a perilous strategic game of chess within the Kremlin itself, a cascading spiral of terror and desperation. The public declaration by Lukoil, Russia's second-largest oil titan, regarding the sale of its international assets cannot be dismissed as a mere bureaucratic maneuver. This represents potentially the inaugural decisive action taken by one of the system's most deeply rooted and venerable figures, Vagit Alekperov, in a desperate bid to rescue what he can from his crumbling financial empire. This audacious sale broadcasts an unmistakable, unspoken decree to fellow oligarchs. We are liquidating, converting assets to cash. Find your own exit strategy. Meanwhile, whispers suggest other powerful elites are exploring more covert yet far riskier avenues of escape. So, how exactly does this audacious escape plan unfold in practice? With Putin's formidable FSB monitoring every shadow, how are these oligarchs orchestrating the movement of billions of dollars out of his iron-fisted system? It's a meticulously crafted operation, predicated on a vast global network of enablers, intricate legal maneuvers, and newly discovered safe havens where international sanctions are deliberately overlooked. This serves as a veritable tactical manual for deserting a sinking vessel. And the stark evidence of this intricate evasion is meticulously detailed in the in-depth investigations conducted by organizations such as the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, or ICIJ, and the Organized Crime Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP. The initial phase of this desperate flight involves moving assets discreetly beneath the digital and regulatory radar. Reports released by the U.S. Treasury's FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, explicitly confirm that the most prevalent tactic involves reassigning asset ownership to individuals, not times listed on Western sanctions rosters. These crucial intermediaries are frequently the oligarchs' children, spouses, ex-spouses, or long-standing trusted business associates. According to FinCEN's analysis, even on February 24, 2022, as the war erupted, one prominent oligarch was observed swiftly transferring his Cyprus-based companies to a business partner. This particular maneuver is recognized as the keeping it in the family stratagem meticulously documented by the Royal United Services Institute RUSI. Assets are effectively shielded by transferring their legal ownership to a clean name on paper, times before any physical relocation of those assets occurs. This ingenious tactic, branded keeping it in the family by the Royal United Services Institute, is crucial. Once the true ownership of these assets is artfully obscured, the subsequent critical step is to embed them within an impenetrable labyrinth, a financial maze where neither Putin's reach nor Western investigators' grasp can penetrate. This is precisely where global facilitators, the architects of shadow finance, come into play. The Cyprus confidential leaks, spearheaded by the ICIJ and OCCRP, have laid bare the intricate workings of this entire illicit system, complete with irrefutable evidence. These reports illustrate how the Cypriot branches of international accounting behemoths, such as PricewaterhouseCoopers PwC, may have actively assisted oligarch Alexei Mordashov in circumventing European Union sanctions, orchestrating a transfer of a $1.4 billion investment just moments before he was officially added to the sanctions list. The methodology is deceptively simple, layer upon layer of shell companies and bespoke trusts or trust-like entities established in notorious tax havens like the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, or Jersey. Funds are then funneled from one shell entity to another, often disguised as fictitious loans or grossly inflated invoices. Each successive layer exponentially increases the difficulty of tracing the ultimate beneficial owner and the original source of the illicit capital. As Anders Åslund, a distinguished economist and author, testified before the European Parliament, seriously, dirty money is frequently buried beneath a shroud of 20 to 30 anonymous shell companies. As Western scrutiny and pressure intensified on traditional offshore havens like Cyprus, Switzerland, and London, the oligarchs facing unprecedented risk began a desperate hunt for new gray zones to safeguard their illicit fortunes. For this post-invasion capital flight, two primary destinations swiftly emerged: the United Arab Emirates and Turkey. Crucially, these nations refrained from full compliance with the comprehensive Western sanctions imposed on Russia. As Anders Åslund starkly highlights, Dubai has unequivocally become the foremost beneficiary of Russian capital, exiting the crisis-ridden Cypriot financial landscape. In these burgeoning havens, oligarchs meticulously launder their money by funneling it into tangible assets, such as high-value real estate, precious gold, or integrating it into local banking infrastructures. This cunning strategy is designed to effectively erase their wealth from the scrutiny of the global financial system, transforming it into seemingly legitimate, untraceable assets. These elaborate methodologies strongly indicate that the billions of dollars generated from the sale of Lukoil's foreign assets are destined for these new permissive safe havens, areas where Putin's influence and access are significantly curtailed rather than being repatriated to Moscow. This comprehensive three-tiered process, involving proxies, shell companies, and these new accommodating havens, constitutes a sophisticated survival mechanism. It allows the oligarchs to simultaneously bypass the punitive Western sanctions and evade Putin's suffocating iron grip at home. This serves as the most undeniable proof of the system's inherent brittleness and the astonishing speed with which elite loyalty dissolves under duress. Recall the initial Faustian bargain: you retain the billions acquired during the Yeltsin era. I will even facilitate your path to greater riches through state contracts and unparalleled protection. But in exchange, you must completely disengage from politics. Your allegiance to me and my mandates must be absolute. You will not attempt to sway the media. You will not fund opposition movements. You will not under any circumstances question the Kremlin's directives. The consequences for those who dared to reject this pact were dire. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who audaciously challenged Putin politically, was arrested dramatically on camera in 2003. His Yukos empire was systematically dismembered, and he endured years of brutal imprisonment in Siberia. Other defiant oligarchs such as Boris Berezovsky and Vladimir Gusinsky were driven into forced exile. These brutal purges conveyed an unequivocal message to all remaining oligarchs: conform to the rules or face utter destruction. The so-called second-wave oligarchs, figures like Roman Abramovich, Oleg Deripaska, Alexei Mordashov, and Vagit Alekperov, understood the grim implications. They receded from the political arena, swore allegiance to Putin, and in return their immense fortunes continued to swell. These were the gilded shackles, the golden handcuffs with which Putin bound them. However, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine launched on February 24, 2022 violently shattered this delicate equilibrium, and Putin's implicit golden handcuff compact with the oligarchs. The war, coupled with the ensuing torrent of Western sanctions, instantaneously annihilated every one of Putin's promises embedded in that initial agreement. Billions of dollars in assets meticulously accumulated by these oligarchs in the West over decades were frozen overnight. The very luster of those golden shackles vanished. Their opulent existences in the West evaporated. Worse yet, the conflict also dealt a crippling blow to their wealth times within times Russia. Putin's guarantee of prosperity had collapsed, replaced by widespread economic devastation. The oligarchs were no longer expanding their fortunes. They were rapidly impoverishing. The very foundation of the deal had crumbled. The sanctions not only seized their financial holdings, but also extinguished their freedom of movement. Western nations became impenetrable territories. Their grand mansions in London and lavish villas in Sardinia transformed into gilded cages. Declared times persona non grata times across the West, these oligarchs were forcibly compelled to repatriate to Russia. But the Russia they returned to was a transformed, unforgiving landscape, far removed from the one they had left. Recent bombshell reports from CNN have shed unsettling light on Vladimir Putin's activities, precisely as news broke of a plane crash allegedly carrying Yevgeny Prigozhin. Prigozhin's short-lived rebellion in June 2023, followed by his suspicious death in an aircraft incident in August 2023, sent a chilling, unmistakable message. Even those within Putin's innermost circle were no longer immune. The cost of defiance or perceived failure had escalated beyond mere financial ruin. It now demanded the ultimate price, life itself. A palpable sense of paranoia now permeates the Kremlin's gilded corridors. The FSB's relentless hunt for traitors could ensnare anyone at any given moment. Putin's once unbreakable promise of security has utterly dissolved. Russian oligarchs and the wider elite find themselves caught in an unforgiving vice, squeezed both by international pressures and Putin's domestic wrath. The most potent, most chilling, and most symbolic illustration of this dire predicament, this profound helplessness, and the spectacular failure of Putin's security guarantees, is unfolding right now in Kaliningrad, Russia's isolated exclave on the Baltic Sea. The events in Kaliningrad are far more than a localized catastrophe. They are a terrifying resonant warning aimed squarely at all Russian elites. Kaliningrad is no longer a formidable fortress. It has become a treacherous trap ensnaring the very victims of the system Putin himself architected. Kaliningrad's stark dilemma originates from its unique geography. This critical region, entirely severed from the Russian mainland by land, is completely encircled by NATO member states Poland and Lithuania. Its only tenuous lifelines are the overland transit corridors through these adjacent NATO countries, or the arduous sea route to St. Petersburg across the Baltic Sea. However, the conflict has brutally severed this critical lifeline. NATO, rigorously enforcing European Union sanctions, has established a formidable bureaucratic blockade rendering transit for Russian trucks to and from Kaliningrad virtually impossible. This legal strangulation has crippled the region's vital transport sector, its very artery, plunging it into financial ruin, with losses estimated at 9 billion rubles and transforming thousands of trucks into a phantom fleet. Road transport of goods from Kaliningrad to either Russia or Europe is now a near impossibility. With the land route sealed, the only remaining alternative is the sea passage. Yet even this pathway is fraught with peril. With Finland and Sweden's recent accession to NATO, the Baltic Sea has effectively been transformed into a NATO internal waterway. The Russian Baltic Fleet is now effectively marooned, confined to the ports of Kaliningrad and St. Petersburg. Even for civilian Russian cargo vessels, the once reliable navigational safety has drastically diminished. The sea route, inherently slower, more costly, and possessing insufficient capacity compared to land transport, is now also critically insecure. This comprehensive logistical siege represents nothing less than a death sentence for the Kaliningrad economy. Historically, the region's economic vitality hinged on transit trade, its strategic role as a pivotal bridge between Europe and Russia, and a thriving assembly industry heavily reliant on imported components. All these interconnected sectors are critically dependent on seamless logistics. The consequence of this logistical paralysis is clear. Kaliningrad is no longer a bustling transit hub. It has become an economic dead end. Factories deprived of essential imported raw materials and components have ceased production. Even deeply rooted local industries such as shipbuilding are grappling desperately to secure basic supplies. The region is staring down the barrel of an industrial apocalypse. The transport infrastructure has already imploded. Factories are shuttered. Ports are paralyzed. Tourism, once a burgeoning sector, has utterly collapsed due to the ongoing conflict and relentless isolation. The region now faces the very real prospect of widespread mass unemployment. As the inflow of goods has become both arduous and prohibitively expensive, the prices of essential commodities have soared to catastrophic, unbearable levels. The ordinary populace grapples daily with the dual burdens of joblessness and rampant inflation. This economic devastation extends beyond the general population, directly impacting the oligarchs and elites who hold significant investments within Kaliningrad. Their hotels, their factories, and their logistics enterprises are rapidly depreciating into worthlessness. But unlike their counterparts in mainland Russia, the elites entrenched in Kaliningrad possess no viable escape route. Their substantial assets, much like their very persons, are irrevocably trapped within this besieged exclave. The unfolding tragedy in Kaliningrad transmits chilling, undeniable signals to the broader Russian elite. If Putin's vaunted Baltic fortress can be so effortlessly choked, then no corner or economic sector of Russia can genuinely claim immunity. The economic ravages of war can and will penetrate everywhere. Putin demonstrably refused to risk a direct military confrontation with NATO solely to protect Kaliningrad. This stark reality reveals Putin's ultimate calculus. He is prepared to sacrifice even Russian territory and its economic prosperity if the survival of his regime is at stake. The oligarchs now grasp a chilling truth: for Putin, their well-being is secondary to the preservation of his own power. This severe entrapment of elites in Kaliningrad serves as a dire augury for other oligarchs. The western gates are already sealed, and even purportedly friendly nations are proving increasingly unreliable. Their dwindling options for escape are vanishing fast. If they fail to act decisively, now they too risk being snared in a hopeless trap mirroring Kaliningrad's grim fate. This context renders Lukoil's decision to divest its foreign assets profoundly significant. Yet this move carries potentially severe repercussions for the Kremlin. Liquidating these assets now could be a desperate gambit to secure immediate liquidity, forestalling even more catastrophic losses down the line. Regardless, this action is an undeniable symptom of the larger systemic collapse of the Russian economy, setting a dangerous precedent for other major corporations. A more sinister interpretation suggests that Lukoil is in fact attempting to strategically distance itself from the increasingly toxic Putin regime. The capital generated from these foreign asset sales might be spirited out of Russia not to bolster the Kremlin, but to finance a future for individuals like Alekperov times post-regime asterisk. This divestment could also be a calculated message aimed at the West. Observe, we are now relinquishing our international operations. Remove us from your sanctions lists, or at least ease the restrictions. If this is indeed their true intent, it represents an unambiguous declaration of disloyalty to Putin. Alternatively, this decision to sell might be a consequence of the intense internal power struggles within the Kremlin. Perhaps hardline factions, the hawks, have coerced companies like Lukoil, perceived as having pro-Western leanings, into this sale as a punitive measure. Regardless of the underlying motive, the outcome is unequivocally the same. Lukoil's strategic retreat profoundly demonstrates that the very foundations of Putin's system are now visibly destabilized, that the bedrock of trust among the elite has irrevocably fractured, and that the brutal force of economic reality is systematically eroding political fealty. Putin, trapped by his own war, is compelled to escalate the conflict, expend ever more resources, deepen the confrontation with Western powers, and intensify internal repression. Yet concurrently, there is an urgent, undeniable imperative for the war to cease, for debilitating sanctions to be lifted, for relations with the West to normalize, and for economic stability to finally return. These two paramount objectives are now irreconcilably contradictory. Putin's relentless pursuit of victory, by its very nature, guarantees the ultimate financial ruin of his oligarchic support base. Conversely, the oligarchs' only path to salvation is contingent upon Putin unilaterally ending the war. The inevitable outcome of this profound conflict of interests is the complete systemic corrosion of the trust that once underpinned the entire regime. This pervasive atmosphere of suspicion and distrust severely cripples Putin's capacity to maintain internal control and direct the system effectively from within. In essence, Lukoil's decision to divest its foreign assets transcends a mere tactical adjustment by a struggling corporation. It stands as the unequivocal ultimate harbinger that Vladimir Putin's oligarchic vessel is rapidly taking on water, and the rats, sensing impending doom, have begun their frantic scramble to abandon ship. The economic devastation and profound diplomatic isolation have utterly annihilated the Faustian pact. Putin meticulously forged with his elites. Loyalty, once his most prized currency, has evaporated, supplanted by a visceral cocktail of fear, unadulterated panic, and an unstoppable flight for survival. This, my friends, is the beginning of the end for Putin's empire. The ship is unmistakably sinking, and the current course is unsustainable. The cracks in the Kremlin are widening into chasms, and the loyalty of the elite is a rapidly diminishing resource. If you found this analysis insightful and want to stay informed on these critical geopolitical shifts, make sure to hit that like button. Your engagement fuels our mission to bring you the sharpest perspectives. And don't forget to drop your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. What do you times think is next for the Kremlin? I read every one.